Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host for today's show, Patrick Siepman. And on today's show, we got a Minnesota Vikings mailbag where I answer questions from Vikings fans, and I answer them as a Minnesota Vikings fan. It's one of the favorite things we do here at Chat Sports. It's great fan interaction. You guys kind of get to steer the direction of today's show. And Matty Ice, he gets us going right away with a $2 super chat. He says, what are the odds Dalvin Cook gets traded? So honestly, at first, after the Alexander Mattison re-signing, I would have probably said I'm around 60-65% that Dalvin Cook is gone. But as the days keep going on, it's just we get closer to the NFL draft. We get closer to the training camp. We get closer to the start of the NFL season. I'm starting to think Dalvin might actually be on this roster. And it kind of comes down to the question that, is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, with how analytical he is as a GM, would he want to put $23 million of our current cap space into the running back position? I'm not sure. Matty Ice, great question. It's probably a question that a lot of Vikings fans are wondering right now. I'd probably say, what are the odds Dalvin Cook gets traded? I think it's 50-50 heading into the NFL draft so far. Then we had another $5 super chat coming in from an MVP here at Vikings Now, Davey Chains, saying if we drafted Hendon Hooker, the Tennessee quarterback, we'd have Hooker getting to Naylor, talking about Jalen Naylor, the wide receiver out of Michigan State. This gave me a great laugh here. But again, Hendon Hooker, he's been mocked to the Vikings a lot at 23 overall. And I honestly wasn't the biggest fan of it. But just to hear that call, whether it's by me or play-by-play guy Paul Allen, Hooker to Naylor, we might have to do it just for that. Davey Chains, appreciate your support here on the channel. We love getting you in the chat and everything. Next question coming in here from C Story. Who do you think is a better fit in the Vikings wide receiver room, Zay Flowers or Quentin Johnson? Straight up, I think it's Zay Flowers. I love Quentin Johnson. I think he's going to be a great receiver. I think he'll be probably a great wide receiver too in the NFL. But Zay Flowers, man, he's something. If you guys haven't turned on this kid's highlights, he's the wide receiver out of Boston College. He's incredibly twitchy, and he's been getting a ton of Antonio Brown comparisons. I think he would be great next to Justin Jefferson, kind of being a more possession receiver where Justin Jefferson's kind of just all around, do whatever you want. But out of these two, I would probably have to lean Zay Flowers. But if the Vikings could get either of those two guys at 23rd overall, I'd kind of be all in, and I'd want to do it. Good question, C-Story. I appreciate it. Next question from Skull Nations. Do you want the Vikings to trade up and snag Anthony Richardson? Ooh, I like this question. Good question coming in from Skull Nations right now. So trading up and snagging Anthony Richardson. It would take a lot to trade up. I would assume you would probably want to trade up to probably 3 because the Indianapolis Colts, they're drafting at 4. I expect them to take a quarterback. So the Vikings to move up from 23 to 3, you're probably going to have to send this year's first-round pick, probably 2 more, and maybe even a second-round pick on top of it. But, hey, if you think Anthony Richardson is that guy, and if you think Anthony Richardson could really be a franchise quarterback for you, giving up 2 extra first-round picks and a second-round pick, I don't really care. Like, I think it's just going to come down to if Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell think they could get the most out of a guy like Anthony Richardson. I'd be all in to do it. I think it would be a very fun and exciting move, and I love his upside. I love his potential. But, man, he's a guy who only threw, I think it was 53.8% completion percentage in college. There's obviously some red flags with him, but I don't know. I'm seeing a lot more green flags from Anthony Richardson. But I'll ask you guys this. Be the GM for this question for me. Would you draft Anthony Richardson? Let's just say the Cardinals offered you that 3rd overall pick. You obviously got to throw in future draft compensation. Would you draft Anthony Richardson? Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video. YouTube ad break comes. Just let it play and get down there and answer today's question. B. Jackson, great question here. Also, shout out to you super chatting earlier. He said, would you trade back and get some picks and draft Hooker late 1st or 2nd with the trade back? This is a good question, B. Jackson, and we'll actually take a look at the Vikings draft picks so far for the season because it is very limited. They only have 5 picks and only 2 picks in the top 100 so far. So again, honestly, it's just what you think about Hendon Hooker. I mean, he's 25 years old. He's coming off a torn ACL, but he's incredibly talented. And his numbers that he put up at Tennessee this past season were phenomenal. I mean, he was probably the Heisman favorite before he tore his ACL. But I do just have that big red flag for me is being 25, coming off a torn ACL. But besides that, Hendon Hooker, he's a very intriguing prospect to me. If we would probably draft him in the second round, you trade back. Maybe you trade your first round pick, get 2 seconds, take Hendon Hooker with one of those seconds. I'd be all in. Thanks for the question, B. Jackson. That's a good one. Bruce Lee coming in with this question. Now with Adam gone, Adam Thielen, do you think KJ will hit over under 1,000 yards in the 2023 NFL season? That's a great question because I think he will. I'm a huge KJ Osborn fan, as you guys know. He's honestly one of my favorite Vikings kind of players that we've drafted out of recent memory. He's great in the community, and he's honestly just a heck of a football player. I think we saw KJ kind of in splashes this past season. You guys remember that Colts game in the 33-0 comeback that the Vikings had? KJ Osborn was fantastic. He went for like 160 yards or something. I just felt like this year, KJ was always kind of that fourth man out because obviously you had Justin Jefferson, you had Adam Thielen, and then when they traded for TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborn was kind of on the back burner a little bit. So I do think KJ will actually be the wide receiver 2 for the Vikes this upcoming season. I know a lot of guys are leaning, could we go get D-Hop? Could we sign OBJ? Could we draft a guy like Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, whatever it may be? My bold prediction, KJ, wide receiver 2, and give me over on 1,000 yards. Bruce, thanks for the question. Wow, we got a legend here. Scully Rowley, great question from you. Could the Vikings trade Dalvin Cook for Austin Ekeler? So if you guys don't know, Austin Ekeler, his name's been thrown around in the latest trade rumors around the NFL because he wants out of LA due to a new contract. And listen, Austin Ekeler, he's one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. His past 4 seasons catching the football have been absolutely fantastic. He had over 100 receptions last season for just over 700 yards out of the running back position. And then back in 2019, absolutely fantastic. 92 receptions, 993 yards, just incredible. And also, the Chargers are setting to work out a deal with Austin Ekeler. Kind of breaking news here. He now has permission to seek a trade. He discussed that he actually has a permission to seek a trade here. So pretty much Austin Ekeler, he's going to be able to kind of go out there and kind of see what team could be looking for him. I don't know. I think if you're giving up an older running back, but an expensive running back like Dalvin Cook to go get a guy like Austin Ekeler, who you're going to have to pay. He's a tremendous back, tremendous dual threat ability. Out of the backfield, catching, running the ball, whatever it may be. I don't know. But I'll ask you guys this. Do you want to trade for Austin Ekeler? Whether it be Dalvin Cook or whatever it may be, give me a T for trade if you would do it. Give me a P for pass if you would pass on trading for Austin Ekeler. C Story with the next question. This is a good one. What's on your mortgaging, or what are you mortgaging for the future of the quarterbacks of next draft? Okay, like trading Danielle Hunter for a first next year and our next year pick to get into the top 5. Okay, C Story. So I see where you're getting at here. So Caleb Williams, Drake May, generational quarterbacks in next year's draft. You even got guys like J.J. McCarthy, Spencer Rattler, other guys in there. Jefferson, the guy from Arkansas, who I would love to actually draft. But C-Story, I get what you're saying. So Danielle Hunter, he's been kind of thrown in the trade rumors for the Vikings the past couple of seasons. They kind of died down as of late. I would actually love to do this. Obviously, if you could get into the top 5 of next year's draft, no duh. I'd definitely do it. Caleb Williams, Drake May, those would be your franchise quarterbacks in Minnesota for years to come. C-Story, I'd be all in. Davey Chains, next question here on the mailbag, saying, should the Vikings package Cook and our 23rd overall pick to a top 10 RB needing team to move up to either get Brian Bresee or Christian Gonzalez? If I had to pick out of those 2 guys, give me Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is my number 1 corner in this year's draft. It was Devin Witherspoon at first. But honestly, if you turn on Christian Gonzalez tape, he is such a smooth runner. His sister is an All-American track star. He comes from a very athletic family. He's extremely fast. He's just extremely smooth. You turn on his highlights and you see why he is the number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. I love Christian Gonzalez. Obviously, we mentioned earlier a guy like Deonte Banks, kind of those freak athletes at the corner position. But out of those 2, I would definitely go Christian Gonzalez. Honestly, I don't hate that trade package at all. I really don't. Dalvin Cook, this year's pick, getting to the top 10. Maybe you send it to Atlanta Falcons. They're picking at number 8 overall. They need a corner. Maybe you give them Dalvin Cook and number 23. I like that. Good idea, Davey Change. Appreciate it. the greatest ever, saying, who is a player you want the Vikings to trade for? That's a good question. Top of my head, I'll get creative with this. I'll kind of go pick a player I'm a big fan of. What about Tee Higgins? I am a huge fan of Tee Higgins, and he's kind of been thrown out there in the latest trade rumors. He actually just traded, I guess you could say he traded his number 85. He's going to be wearing number 5 next season. But give me Tee Higgins. I think he would be a ton of fun to bring in the Minnesota. Obviously, Tee Higgins is playing with Justin Jefferson's teammate right now, Jamar Chase. But pairing him up with Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, I think that would be a ton of fun. Tee Higgins is one of my favorite non-Vikings in the NFL. I would love to bring him in. Obviously, the Bengals have said that they don't plan on trading him. But, hey, they got to pay Joe Burrow. They got to pay Jamar Chase. They're going to take up a lot of cap space. Maybe they could be looking to trade off a guy like Tee Higgins. Who knows? Next question coming in here from Oops61869 saying, do you think we will sign a free agent corner like Rock Ya-Sin? I hope so. I mean, we talked about Rock Ya-Sin about a week ago right now. I would love to bring in Rock Ya-Sin. I think Rock Ya-Sin is a great corner to a very shaky Vikings cornerback room. If there's anybody or if there's any position that the Vikings need to address first and foremost, it's the cornerback group. I love Byron Murphy, but he's still more of a 2 than me, and the Vikings need more of these press man corners, in my opinion. Oops, I would love Rock Ya-Sin. That's a great question, and honestly, Vikings, whether it's drafting or signing a guy, that free agent position needs to be addressed. But again, thank you guys so much for watching today's mailbag. We go live every other Wednesday at around 3 o'clock, so if you guys are tuning in from there, just comment Real One on today's video. I love kind of getting in the comments and seeing all the guys that type Real One because, hey, you're actually watching this whole video. You're actually listening to what I have to say, and it means a lot. So, again, I really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys so much. And, hey, as always, Skol Vikes.